Welcome back to Midweek Gaming. We're back once again with the Renegade Master, as Removable Sanity likes to hear.
Yep.
That's what he thinks about when I mention we're back once again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Party like it's
well,
1999.
welcome back. We're back once again.
You can't stop yourself,
Welcome
can you?
back.
Yeah, right. And also, we're back with back from the dead. Is a guest. He hasn't been on since I used to do Midweek Gaming, which was a long time. And this year I've made an effort to try and get more friends on from the community that have been supporting the shows over the years and it pops in and out. And I made a terrible effort of it last year. That's probably why he didn't get invited on. But this year I've made an effort to invite more people on. I have.
Friends.
So, yeah.
Oh, well, back. You've been elevated higher than me and VJ. Damn.
Well, you two are friends as well. But yeah. Thanks for coming on back from the dead.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Do you want to?
Fun to catch.
Do you want to tell people who you are in case anyone doesn't know? Because we have got people on Apple Podcasts, etc., listen as well. We have. Maybe they don't.
Yeah, so back from the dead on basically all social media and back from dead on any gaming platform you play on Xbox, PSN. Make content for about 5 years. Started out just doing Twitch straight from the Xbox, and then when the pandemic started, they gave everybody in the U.S. stimulus checks, so I took half of that to pay off bills and half of it to build my own PC.
Nice.
And then from there, I started streaming on YouTube and Twitch through Restream, and made a lot of content over my favorite game, Destiny 2. So that's a large portion of it. And then the other part of it is doing game reviews or different topics I think of, that I just want to talk about that are related to gaming. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite a while. Your show is actually the second one I was on, because I was on, what was it, like, quite a while ago. I was on Flamish's show. He wanted me to come on there, and
Okay.
at that point I was just running it off my phone, and then I got my PC not long after that, and you were the first one to ask, and then Lemon from 108 Dragons TV was the second one to ask, and then it kind of started rolling from there. That I started going on more podcasts.
Oh, you're on about back from Midweek Gaming days?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Long time ago. But yeah, and then I tried to mix it up between both edited and live gaming content, and at this point, just because it kind of fits my schedule better, I'm doing more live streams. I don't really schedule them just because, between trying to balance, work, gaming, and family.
That's a good thing.
It's easier to do things on the fly.
Well, it is, because then you're not stressing. You don't put yourself under stress that you won't make it. So that's a good plan. That is, really. But yeah, no, thanks for doing the introduction back. It's nice to have you back on. It is. I nearly said it again. This is Removable's fault.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Why did you have to say Destiny? We've got BMG in chat who absolutely loves Destiny. We've got a moderator currently spamming the chat with Destiny 2. BMG.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
I know.
No, I mean, Destiny's had its problems over the years, and it's having its problems right now with the... I finished up playing through this season is Season of the Wish, where really cool. If you go back, there's a lot of story related to this going back 4 years ago, where part of the plot line started there, and part of it even started back in Destiny 1 with the Taken King expansion, how that starts.
I remember that.
Where Queen Marasov dies at the beginning of the Taken King expansion, and then you figure out in Forsaken that that she didn't die. She created her own throne world so that she could go in there, and that's what the Shattered Throne dungeon is in Destiny 2. Fast forward 4 more years to now, they're finally wrapping up the story from Forsaken, that where you go into the Dreaming City and you find out it's cursed. Where this season you're going around collecting car eggs for Riven to try and go through a portal to get into the area that we're going to in the final shape. Well, that would have been a lot better if the final shape hadn't been delayed to June 4 from February. So,
yeah, so that's not too good, is it? Really, we've been waiting a long time for that, and they delay it again.
mm-hmm.
So yeah,
at this point, hey, I've got plenty of games to play. I'm fine with waiting as long as it's a polished product, and that's kind of where I'm at in gaming overall. That I care more if you can write a good story, take your time. I don't care. Make sure the game's polished, because I've seen too many broken games in the last couple of years.
Yeah, can't argue there. There's been a lot that has, but yeah, so I'll just thanks for coming on, and Removable Sanity. Welcome, and thanks for coming back on.
Much appreciated to have me on. It's always lovely to be back on here, and it's nice, obviously, to see Back from the Dead come on again. As I said, it's nice to see other characters that we have spoken to previously and elsewhere back on, so we can engage with them a little bit, and hopefully, as you said, try and bring even more people into the fray and talk absolutely gaming with them. I was going to say something else as well, but I cut myself off quickly. But yeah, it's brilliant to be back. And of course, we've got our VJ as hell, who's hiding.
We have. How are you doing?
Or eating.
I'm good, thank you. Glad to be on the show, and as usual, and yeah, looking forward to the topics.
Have you finished eating? You have?
Yeah. It's been a busy few weeks actually. I was going to say it's been a busy day, but just so you know, if I do pop off, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I've got the gardener coming round. I've got a delivery coming, and obviously I take care of someone. So if I do pop off,
no problem.
It's family
of course
stuff.
not. Look, we know your delivery of Earl Grey and crumpets is important.
Hang on, he's delivery from the UK of PG Tips. You mean?
Well, he says that, but I suspect he only does that to endear himself with the average Brit. I'm sure he actually is a bit of more of an Earl Grey man when we're not watching.
I do enjoy several cups of Earl Grey during the day. It's just that I don't sleep as much as I used to. So if PG Tips is pretty strong compared to Earl Grey, but so I sort of have a cup of PG Tips in the morning sometimes, or a coffee, and then the rest of the day it's Earl Grey. Also because it's quite cold at the moment over here, and we don't have heating, so I do drink quite a few cups of tea throughout the day.
Is that loose tea, or do you guys get in tea bags?
Tea bags, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. What part of the US are you from? If you are from the US, back?
Wisconsin. So that's
Wisconsin.
If you're looking at the dead center middle of the United States, just go all the way north, and it's right next to Lake Michigan. If I if I drove to the north end of Wisconsin and I went any further, I'd be going into Canada.
Oh, is that in the state of Chicago? Is that just north of Chicago as an independent state?
Yeah, it's just north of Chicago. If I drove south about an hour and a half, I'd hit Chicago at that point.
The Windy City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually grew up probably about 45 minutes to an hour north of Chicago, depending on how traffic is. So yeah, I'm more of a country boy, though. I don't really care going into big cities like that.
Don't blame you.
You're more hardened to the elements.
You kind of have to be.
I'd have thought that the elements had hardened to back.
You do understand back that VJ does live in America, not England. It may throw you off his voice. He does live in America. He does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right over here, you
abroad.
stay hardened to the elements. It's only 0 degrees Fahrenheit or 17.7 degrees Celsius right now outside.
That's summer, isn't it?
Around here it is. I just had flannel pajamas and a tank top on when I took my dog out for 5 minutes. Because as long as I'm only out there for 5 minutes, it's not that bad outside.
Well, in California, well, VJ is, it's probably what you should use a little bit cold now, is that at the moment?
It is cold, yeah, at the moment. Because I live near the coast, so it's a little bit more chilly here.
It's -2
than
here.
usual. Not nowhere near what back's facing. I mean, Chicago's like probably like a blankets over it at the moment. But yeah, no, it's just I just like to ask, because the US is so huge. I mean, England is pretty densely populated. Well, I'll say that only 7% of the landmass has actually been built upon, if you believe it or not. But America is.
I'd say it's come up for about 10 now.
Is it? There you go. Double digits.
It ain't that here in England.
That's because the Lord of Rutland's built a double garage, hasn't he, somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't. The trouble is with a lot of the lands that in the UK, it's historically either woodland or farming, and farming's kind of slightly decimated. I would say in the last 30 odd years, it is starting to come back a little bit, but woodlands are still pretty much kept, and still, I'd say, pretty much revered. And this is obviously the south side of thing, but north side you've got pretty much its hills and barren wastelands and marshes and stuff like that, which is not always brilliant for housing in itself.
Yeah, we've had where I am, they keep building on all the old farm fields, and we had actually got a property developer that's been cheeky enough. A load of flooding was caused, and bungalows were flooded, and they've actually put in a request to the council to try and remove an article from the contract they agreed to wipe the any liability of local flooding on the road. You can't do that. Yeah, I know, but they've actually put an application in to try and remove it. They've actually it's official, but it won't work.
No, it all depends. Well, it all depends. When we say it doesn't work, there is a politics to it. So it will depend on the council, and it will depend on the councillor if he's running for election. Because if he's running for election, he may make an adjustment in this one instance. They'll whack in some sort of
she,
he or she, she, because that they can get round things if it means they'll get re-elected.
That would not be a popular thing to get you re-elected. That would not be popular. Trust me. But anyway,
well, the question will go down to is it may not be popular, but will it get them? Because what they're running things, you can say as well. Okay, we're going to get an extra 30,000, 60,000 homes here. A
lot of that. Some of the housing developments have been put on hold. They have because of the flooding we've had. A lot of it's coming from these new housing estates.
Well, yeah. So this is the problem. They've generally haven't done a good enough survey of the surrounding area and the geographical elements. They normally don't do good enough survey to kind of determine what flooding requirements or flooding alternatives they need to place in there. Exactly. And this is just something that the council hasn't got time to always double check. The council itself doesn't have the manpower to do so. So it kind of relies on these contractors to do their due diligence. And unfortunately, if you're kind of micromanaging yourself, you don't have to check yourself and do your due diligence.
No, you don't. But anyway, let's go on to some gaming talk. And welcome to Fimber, who says it's around...
Oh, I love this new Mr. Assertive, Mr. Rutland.
27 minus... No, I'm confused. It's like... How can it be minus 30? Wow. Minus 30, Fimber? Celsius?
Yeah, some places can get that, yeah.
Wow, okay. But yes, so recently the Prince of Persia Lost Crown demo has been released, and
the game, isn't it?
Is the game actually out then?
It is today. If early access is
Yeah.
available, play it today.
Okay, so
Yeah, if you would have had to buy the deluxe version for that though.
Correct.
fair. Okay, so who's played it and what do you all think about it? The
Jack,
the
you're the
demo.
guest.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm actually playing it right now.
There you go.
No, it's
Well, the demo
I
or the
think it's-
game?
The
The
demo.
demo or the game? Okay.
Yeah, just the demo. Yeah, the demo is kind of limited on, and they even say when you're starting off that they closed off certain areas,
hmm
and they give you amulets and gear to start out with that you wouldn't
Yeah.
start in the full game with, so
Oh,
you'll have
do
a bit
they?
of a difference.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's true,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they want to give you a better experience. For example, they give you the bow right away. You don't have that
Oh, okay. I did not know
starting the
that.
game.
Also, some good amulets as well. They give you a nice large number of amulets, which kind of buff your character.
Yeah, which does you have to earn a lot of the stuff they give you in the demo. You have to earn through gameplay.
Mm.
Where there's even more stuff to earn after that, but they also lock off parts of the map that you can't get through. Part of that being that you're going to need different abilities that you'll get later on in the game. Like, I can't double jump, so there's certain chests that I can't even get to because I'd have to be able to double jump to do a wall jump off. To get the
You
one
can
chest
do that
working.
in the demo, might I just say, because I did find
Okay.
the ability, the ability to do that. So you can find enough money to kind of pay for that.
Mhm. So yeah, I mean, but as far as overall my experience in the demo, I think it's really good. The combat's pretty smooth. It takes a little bit getting used to. And I don't the parry system really isn't explained that well, so you kind of have to feel it out. Where I didn't see you'll see like a yellow spark appear on an enemy, and I was thinking that's when you're supposed to parry. It's like, no, that's when you're supposed to dodge. That's like their unstoppable attack. So parry timing will take you a little bit to get used to, and it's definitely not an easy game. Even playing on, I think it's Warrior is what I set it on, which is basically normal difficulty. You can still get clocked 4 times and die. So it's like I said, not the easiest game, but the combat and the animations definitely look fluid, and you should easy enough to like get your parry timing eventually once you play enough, just by watching the animations on screen. So yeah, overall, it looks like it's going to be an interesting story, and the fact that I thought it was just going to be a normal platformer, where listening to Abontus on his stream, he's talking about how it was Metroidvania. There's certain abilities and gear that you're going to have to get and then go back to previous areas to get different chests or whatever you can find in areas you couldn't access before. Which actually has me more interested in the game at this point, because as just a platformer, I don't want to beat my face into a wall with this kind of difficulty, where if that exploration aspect for Metroidvania games is in there, I'm more excited for that.
I think, to be honest with you, that is a staple part of the Prince of Persia, because I'm pretty well, at least the more modern Prince of Persias, where I think, if I remember correctly, you would gain abilities and you'd have to go back upon yourself to get into new areas. I'm trying to think of the one. Is it the Times of Sand? Where you would be, I think it's like your
Sands
devil
of
version.
Time was the OG Xbox one, and then
Was the one where was it the one where
360
you
was Forgotten Sands.
is it forgotten? Is that the one where you got your alternative, almost like your devil version or black version of yourself?
Yeah, that was in Forgotten Sands on the 360.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one was the one where you actually had some abilities where you went back upon yourself to get stuff. You can access areas using some of those abilities. So I think, if I remember correctly, that has been slightly historical. But from what I'm telling on here, this is a much more Metrovania sort of push towards it. That was more like a 3D, a standard platformer with some,
Yeah, and the style, making a Metroidvania, the style fits better in the, I guess, the background being 3D, but it's not so flat in that sense, but it's 2D side-scrolling for the most part.
It's a 2.5D, isn't it? Yeah. It's a 2.5D sort of. To be honest with you, it is kind of harken back to the original Prince of Persia, which was technically a platformer. So that's what it was. It was, so it's not as if people say, "Oh my God, it's they've made it to a platformer." It's like, well, to be honest with you, the original was always a platformer. It's historically started off that way. It was only when it moved into 3D later on did they kind of, people kind of got used to it. The 3D, almost the 3D aspect of the game was a difference from the originals. This seems to be going more back to the original. I'm trying to think of. My memory is a bit fuzzy of the original Prince of Persia. I'm trying to think of the digital, 1990 or 1980 sprites.
So the original released on October 3rd, 1989.
Oh, I was close.
Have you got Google open by any chance, or do you just know that?
Wikipedia.
Oh, Wikipedia.
You see, he's got Wikipedia. I'm just old. So there you go.
Yeah, it looks like it released all the way back then, probably on NES. That's the oldest console I'm seeing here.
In fact, I remember it. The irony is actually I got my kids a little game console with emulator with all 15,000 games, and it's actually on there. So my youngster was playing one of them recently. Hence the reason I was like, hang on a minute, I remember that. But yeah, so it does. It's kind of a throwback to its original roots, I suspect. But you say, in your terms of is the demo enticing you? I should say is the way I'm kind of looking at it.
As long as the full game plays this way, then yes. That would be my only concern as far as just playing the demo. Is there going to be problems outside of the small slice of the game that you're showing, and what's the actual size of the game? But as far as just game mechanics, character dialogue, the cutscenes in this, how you almost get that, and sometimes in newer games you'll get the over-polished cutscenes and then you go back to the gameplay. The cutscenes in this look exactly same artwork, same everything as the gameplay itself. It's not like they changed it completely when you jump into cutscenes, so it's not jarring in that sense.
Well, I mean, how do you feel about these, almost the comic book animations when it comes to talking? You see them slightly move their animations in the background, but then you get this side, this in front comic book style animation character literally right beside the screen. Overlay is what I'm thinking of. Overlay on the screen. I was like,
yeah, when they're doing
cheap.
When they're doing in-game dialogue, that's actually more akin to almost. I'm trying to think of what the game is. If the Tales games do that a lot. That's almost Japanese anime. It's that style of game.
Yeah, which kind of, this is what's kind of, when I was playing it, it kind of threw me because I can see it in that style of gameplay where this was never like that. They've kind of done a blend of art styles, and I suppose for me it was just like, I would have preferred, because they've got some good 3D models. I just would have preferred it was in full 3D. To be honest with you, it seems like I'm probably being overly dramatic, but it seems like they cheapened it a little bit. It's like we can't be bothered to kind of do like a full 3D animation. Let's just stick in a comic book side panel where the Prince, the Prince of Persia, the Japanese versions. That is part and parcel of that style's ethos. It's all kind of tied well into it. one thing I kind of wanted to talk your thoughts about was I found the controls a little clunky. Now this is a demo, so I always take it with a little pinch of salt. And you made an example of the parry system. I found it was almost like a delay. Now it could be just the demo itself that's having a little slight there, but I found that as you quite rightly pointed out, the parry system is like I almost had to delay my reaction slightly to some of my attacks.
Yeah, that parry system reminded me a little bit of how what was it, the Curious Case of Benedict, or the Last Case of Benedict Fox, a little like that, just very similar.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a delay in not the way you're talking about it. Like it's not like the enemy hits you and there's a delay to the timing of your parry. I don't think that's there. I think the animation from the enemies, because I'm anticipating them to just throw out the attack, it almost looks like they pull back, pause for a second, and then they attack you. Mm-hmm. So you have to delay in your mindset, if you're expecting them to just bring the sword back in one fluid motion and hit you, that's not how the animation works. They bring the sword back, they hitch for about a millisecond, and then they attack. So
yeah,
you have to adjust yourself to that timing, where typically in a game they just in one fluid motion hit you. That's just the timing of the enemies. That's not a delay in the game, I don't think.
No, I was trying to describe it the best way I could in how I was gauging it, because it's literally, as I said, it felt like I had to kind of hold off, and it was almost like a delay to myself in getting to kind of a parry or attack. And I mean, even some of the attacks, it's like there was something off, and I couldn't quite put my I couldn't quite work out what was off, but something was slightly off, and I was like, "Is it me? Is it the actual animation?" And I was like, "That's why." I mentioned it to you, VJ, wasn't I? I was like, "Am I being the only one? Am I being sensitive?"
No, it's a delay in the. You're expecting, because if it's the same thing I'm thinking of, like I said, you're expecting the enemy to attack you in one fluid motion. The enemy's not doing that, so it's throwing your timing off a little bit.
What I would say is, basically, I guess I am a fan of Metroidvania games because I didn't really understand the genre or try to understand it. But then when I realized I'd spent over 100 hours with Hollow Knight, Ori, Will of the Wisps, and Celeste, and games like that, which I think have a better design language than Prince of Persia overall. Far better, actually, far superior. I'll give you an example in a moment. But so when I played the demo twice, and the first time, the design language really put me off, and I thought, come on, this is about 100-man team in total if you look at the credits, right? And then if you look at something like Hollow Knight, which has had 3 people on it, they have a far better design language. That was my first issue. I played the game and I tried to play it like I was playing Ori or Celeste or Hollow Knight. And then I shared my initial thoughts with Removable. And then about 24 hours later, I thought, you know what, there is this Prince of Persia still on the back of my mind, because I've tried about 4 or 5 demos over the weekend, which I'm sure Removable will be very happy with. And and then I played it again. And this time I played it like God of War, in terms of the parry system and the combat and everything. Not God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, but God of War 1, 2, and 3. And for some reason, the way that the parry system works in those games, I don't know, it kind of clicked for me. And I'm not saying that there's a direct correlation or there's a proverbial link to it. It just clicked for me personally. I can only speak from my perspective. And the other reason why I was annoyed with the demo, because the music, the vignettes just before you use a sort of like a powered up move, the character designs, the story and dialogue all felt very forced or very, I can't remember the word that I used, Removable, very contrived almost. And, and for example, like, and the design language, right? Hollow Knight, Ori, Celeste, they're incredibly strong. So for example, the amulet system for me, I don't know if you've played Hollow Knight back. I know, obviously, Lord Stubbs is an expert at it.
No, I'm
He's
not.
got past the
I
tutorial. So
I played maybe 3 to 5 hours of it. I still need to go back and finish it.
then you're obviously aware of the charm system. The amulet system
Mhm.
in Prince of Persia works almost identical, but in the charm system, where basically you're afforded a certain number of slots. The amulets, based on what abilities they afford you, take up a certain number of slots, 1, 2, or 3. So a Hollow Knight is exactly the same, right? And you can collect up to 40 different charms. But when I was looking at the amulets, just by looking at them, I couldn't distinguish what does, what ability is attributed to which amulet just from looking at the design of them. But if you play Hollow Knight, you can look at all 40 charms, and you can pretty much, just from the design, the effort that's gone into designing those amulets, you can tell what their purpose is without having to look at the text box on the other side of the screen every time you want to mix and match the charm. So just little things like that. And the other thing, I didn't care for the look. Full disclosure here, I have bought the game and I'm going to be playing it later today because I want to play it. So what I'm thinking is that if there's that many, the music's forgettable, the vignettes are very contrived, the character designs are poor. You know what? I don't know if you guys remember, but you might remember this. Do you remember a movie from the 1950s called The Ten Commandments with, was it Ten Commandments? I think it was with that actor. I can't
Are you
always
talking
pronounce
about the Charles
Yul
Come on, you should know the
Ten
actor.
Commandments?
Yul Brenner. You remember Yul Brenner, the bald guy who always used to dress up like an Egyptian or or basically like the Prince of Persia. And I'll pull up some images.
There was
in a minute.
also another particularly famous person who played Moses, didn't he?
Yeah, he was like the king or the sultan or
if you're
something.
talking about
Your brother
Moses,
was,
that
yeah, your brother was
Charlton
the
Very
king.
similar, very designed similar. I'm not saying he's Persian or anything. I'm just saying that the design of the sets and the costumes, the way that Yul Brenner moves, his style, his presence, that for me perhaps would have been more fitting. And I almost went to the point where I wanted to take some, what I used to do in the past, years ago, I'd take some screenshots of this game and get a couple of artists that I know to do some paint overs to really bring about I don't know, Ruben, I might need your help with some vocabulary, but for the environment, just for it as an example, because characters and environments are very different. But I think the environments could be more vibrant. I think they could be richer, and I think that the level of all of this could be a lot higher. Then I noticed that it was on the Switch, and then I was thinking, okay, so maybe perhaps because that's the lowest common denominator, and it's got to run on that system. Perhaps that's why the visuals are the way that they are. But then I remember, well, hang on a minute, God of War back in 2005, even the way I can still recall levels and level designs and the visual presentation and production designs of those games, of certain levels within that game that have stuck with me for almost 20 years. And that's what I think is lacking in Prince of Persia as a whole. But at the same time, every time I've read I went back and I actually read some reviews, and none of them say that the game is exhilarating. They say that the game, it's like this, it could be this, I feel like it's like that, it's like or feeling, right? It's not like blunt, as in this game is exhilarating, it's fantastic. So I think that this game has been reviewed well. In my mind, my thought process, well, it must be reviewed well because of the level design and gameplay, and fundamentally those two aspects of when playing a game come first. So I kind of bought this was almost as an experiment, but also because the second time I played the demo through, it appealed to me a lot more. So I'm really interested, actually. I'm really curious to how it's going to shape up after I beat it.
I think you're right in terms of the color palette. The color palette is a bit dulled. Yeah. It's as you said, it's not subdued yet. It's not such as a vibrant color. To be honest, if you remember the Disney Prince of Persia, it was not Disney Prince of Persia. Well, it was Aladdin. Yeah, that was almost a much more visually. And it is slightly depressing, but it was a much more visually striking than this. This is a very much, I think it's a design choice, because what they've done here is they've gone with a much more subdued and dulled palette, so that when you get your very big like on the screen now, your big powerful parries or your big powerful strikes, those then are flashy and more flamboyant, which is what they want them to be. Because I think if you had such a vibrant background, then these particular special abilities or special parries wouldn't be as special. And maybe that's where it's gone through. They want the abilities to be almost the visual enticements rather than the main game itself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be I'll just caveat this: fools rush in where angels fear to tread and all that. But the reason why, you know me, I don't really want to criticize games. We'll make a jovial comment in jest, but because games are just incredibly hard to make, and I'm glad this game exists, right? Because games aren't always perfect, but then we don't live in a perfect universe, do we? So, but the reason why I say it is because France, for me, in my experience, has some of the best musicians and art designers and design language talent in the world, right? And it can easily rival Japan, right? But obviously the development scene there is pretty much run by EA and Ubisoft for their sins. But I don't know if you remember, what's that studio removable that made games for Sony that went off on their own, a French studio? The guy's name, the studio, I forget what it's called. David something, and then I forgot his studio. Anyway, they're doing a Star Wars.
Didn't they do? Was it The Sinking City or something like that?
No, there's a game they did that you talk about quite often. French studio. They used to do it just for Sony.
Oh,
you know who I'm talking about, right?
Are you talking about? Oh my God, you talking about? They did not from software. It was God, I know what it is. They did their own version of a Dark Souls one. Is that what you were talking about?
No, it will come to me in a minute. I know that the head studio his name's David, and they had some sort of allegations against them. Anyway, they're doing a Star Wars game, and they released a trailer for it, and we haven't seen anything. It was
Moon Studios.
No, it's French. The studio is French. David Cage, is it?
French.
Let's have a look.
I'm trying to think of the one where they did. Was it The Surge? That's not that French studio.
No, they did a fantastic game. I think it came out on PC later.
Quantic
You
Dream.
know who I beg your pardon?
Quantic Dream.
That's the one. That's it. Quantic Dream. And if you look at the trailer for Star Wars, when I saw it, I know not a lot of people talk about it, but that trailer in terms of art production is phenomenal for me, and it stuck with me even from 2-3 years on. Anyway, so that was my thing, is that for Ubisoft, for the ability and the level of talent that they've got, I don't know what the budget for this game was. I don't even know if they expected it to do really well. I don't really know the people that they've had on it, but
they did have some issues with this, if I remember correctly, didn't they? They did have. Was it not cancelled, but didn't it get moved? Didn't it get switched from studio to studio at some point?
I think it was supposed to be a 3D game initially, wasn't it? And then it had some.
Yeah, it's like they changed it about quite a bit, wasn't it? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're spot on. It has had some. It has had it, but again, I go back to Yul Brynner. Even his voice, I'm surprised. You guys must know Yul Brynner, right? One of the most iconic actors ever to grace Hollywood. But anyway, probably I'm showing my age here, aren't I? So okay, I'll just be quiet.
Just a little bit.
I do agree with the fact that I must admit, now you mention it, I don't remember any of the sounds or music of this game with the demo.
You don't.
Did not come through at all.
The production design, the musical score, as I say, the overall design language is just killed me. Especially removable, given the fact that there's so many games that have gone before it that they could have pulled inspiration from, and the game, I think, visually and production design wise could have been, as a word that indie gamer likes to use, could have been far more richer. I'm not saying the game is bad. I'm just saying I think that the game has been reviewed fundamentally on game design and gameplay.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then I'm in for a treat. But I'm just thinking that the game could have been a smash hit. It still will be a smash hit, but I don't know why I'm picking on this game particularly, because I don't really pick on games, but I just see the potential.
I think it's because you've got the historical context of other Prince of Persia games, and so therefore there's a certain level of expectance
Sands of
from
Time took
these
me by
games.
surprise. Sands of
Yeah,
Time took me by
exactly.
surprise when that came out. Oof.
And to be honest with you, thinking about it now, it does have this game has had a troubled history. And now thinking about it, when I said when I was talking about you see these almost like comic style 2D characters overlays in the actual cut sequences, that lends itself to maybe having a timescale that was a little bit shorter because of its its troubled past. And maybe that's what happens. It had a bit of a troubled past, and they've had to cut corners somewhere, and in something maybe that's what we're seeing here, in terms of our criticism currently. But as you said, the gameplay completely might shine through
Yeah, absolutely.
and
This is why.
completely outdo any of these original
Yeah, exactly.
criticisms.
It just makes it all
There's a
just irrelevant.
question.
Yeah, no, and
There's
this is why I asked Stubbs, if Indie Gamer had played it, because obviously he's a Metroidvania expert, and
Well, he's in
I
chat
thought,
now, so he might answer that
oh, is
question.
he?
Yeah.
So, because he's an expert on these games, and if he turned around, because I mean, there's only very few people. There's yourself, Stefan, and Indy, and that I take game recommendations for, and I play them, right? So, I'd love to have heard his impressions of the demo, because it is a Metroidvania game, and it kind of fills a hole in my heart waiting for Silksong. If I'm being really selfish here, and that's why I paid for it and bought it this morning, right? And you know me, I never pay for early access.
This is true. This is very true.
No, but I wasn't expecting like the level you're talking about, whether you're talking about Hollow Knight or Ori. I'm not expecting that out of this game. And quite honestly, I was also expecting more of like the depth puzzles that you're used to in Prince of Persia, which maybe that comes in later on in the game, but it's in like the first hour here. I would have expected to see one of those already.
Oh no, back. I'm with you, because like those games are really long games. I mean, I checked this game. You can apparently finish it in about 20 hours. It was purely from the fact that from the design language and how much bigger Ubisoft are, and how bigger this team is, and how much more they can potentially achieve. But I haven't played the game in its entirety as the developer intended. We've played, as you really. Actually, I wanted to say one of the best articulations of the demo I've heard in a long time on this show, if ever. It was fantastic back. I thought you hit all the points, and I think you hit them perfectly for somebody who never even played the game or the demo. So I think that it was just from a design language perspective. I was looking at Prince of Persia, but I'm going to play the game, and then perhaps we can revisit it in a couple of weeks. That's probably how long it'll take me to finish.
No, yeah. I mean, first impressions are just what they are. Will the demo get you to buy the game? Will do you think in 20 hours the game's going to shape up? And you already know, like, I started playing Metroidvanias all the way back on. I didn't get into them until GameCube when I played Metroid Prime 1. So, all the way back then, played all three of those games. Still waiting for Metroid Prime 4. But you already know the progression throughout this style of game. You're going to start off weak as hell, and then eventually, by the end of the game, you're going to have this huge toolbox of stuff to work with, and you can play how you want.
Yeah, I agree. I do appreciate that this game also, the demo has been cobbled together, and also back to what you've been saying, removable, playing so many demos one after the other. I've played demos in the past, but playing so many consecutively and listening to you week on week about playing demos and the value of demos and what I played several, and I realized that there's definitely a gap in studios where there should be more people that are experts in actually creating and putting demos together, because out of all of the ones I played, some were good, some were poor, and they didn't need to be. And yeah, there's definitely an art to putting a demo together, if that makes sense.
Well, I think, and this is the thing that it got me, was around the 90s and the 2000s, it was almost perfected. When you got a demo, you played the hell out of that demo until the game arrived.
Yeah.
And those demos were the teaser, and even if you played the demos multiple times, one of the demos, my favorite demos, was Soul Reaver. I've still got it, and I played it so much that by the time the game came out, I had almost had memorized that particular section of the game completely in its entirety. And it's one of those things that it just enticed me all the time, no matter how many times I played it, to get and buy the game. And as you said, it needs, I think one of the problems we've had with demos is because it's been almost a forgotten part of the gaming industry now. It's I'm hoping its resurgence is coming back. I think as you said, you need a specialist to kind of do proper demos. Get you.
Yeah, no,
They're like trailers, aren't they? They're trailers for
yeah.
the games, and you need someone who is really good at setting that trailer so everybody, it entices everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think. Did you just say the word? Sorry, Mover. Did you just mention trailer? Because if you look at trailers, right, there's good trailers and there's not so good trailers, and
Yes.
being able to edit a fantastic trailer again is a very specific skill.
Exactly.
And-
You need a
and
good middle,
demos
beginning, and end. Yeah, and you need that pull, that enticement. And a good demo was like a good trailer. It brings you in, it entices you, it ramps it up slightly so that you're lusting for the game at the very end. You want to see more. And that's like a good trailer. I think you need specialists in terms of demos. And
at the end of the Prince of Persia demo, I thought you were going to fight the boss, and it doesn't. It just
it
goes straight
stops.
to the
Yeah.
order. I would have
Exactly.
I would have put a 30-second trailer at the end. I think there is actually. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm.
There is. It's what you see here is actually.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, excellent. Because I played Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, another game I was looking forward to, but I guess this and then obviously Final Fantasy Rebirth are kind of gonna clog. I know you're gonna find it really strange. It's just something you said at the beginning back about your gaming backlog. I'm actually nearly pretty much up to date with my backlog. Just got Ratchet and Clank to finish, and then I'm pretty in the clear.
No, I'm
You're the
nowhere
only
near
one.
that. I got like 5 games I bought from the holiday sale that I just added to my backlog.
All on sale? Did you get them all on sale?
Yeah, I didn't.
Fantastic.
Like one of them
Great advocate.
was Gotham Knights. I picked that up. It was only like $15. Back for Blood was only $15. The ultimate version that comes with the season pass.
We know all about Back for Blood, don't we, Removable?
Mm-hmm.
So the season pass is normally $40, so it's a lot cheaper that way. And then I don't have to worry about if it goes out of Game Pass or whatever. I've got the game now.
Exactly.
Then there was a couple others that I picked up. Oh, it was Sonic Frontiers. That was another one. So yeah, I already had plenty of games to play, but got a few more because I was interested in, hey, if they're half off or 75% off at that point, pick them up and you got them there when you're, like right now I'm on vacation for a week. And so I got time to just finally relax and play some games and have fun with them.
Do you play on any subscription services? Or are you a PC
Game
gamer,
Pass is a backlog in and of itself. I've also got PS Plus, which you get good games out of like whatever the PlayStation equivalent of Games with Gold is. That I think it was this month they just brought out. What was it? Blanking on the name. Plague's Tale Requiem is one of the free games this month over there.
Plague's Tale is a good game.
Yeah, and then I've also got the so we can have the cloud saves and the expansion pack over on for my kid's Switch. That only costs like 100. I think it's $100 or something. That you can have up to 8 people on that subscription service, and that's how you play all their retro games over there. Because they got rid of the virtual console from the Wii U, and basically that's subscription service if you want to play any older games over on the Switch or Switch Lite.
That's quite a bit, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The trouble is, it's fine, like finding anything, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's like you're finding time to play, and as an adult, you assumed you'd have time to play, and then when you ever got married with kids, it's like there is no time to play.
No, you find time where you got it, and if you have a
I find time is just it's normally around 2 a.m. in the morning.
well, yeah,
That's
I
my
mean,
gaming time.
my wife actually, she used to only play on her phone. Ironically, a couple of years ago, she started getting into console gaming because she wanted to spend more time with me, and I was having fun decompressing from work and playing games. So, I mean, at this point now, my wife and all my kids are playing a bunch of different games, and the whole family got into Disney Dreamlight Valley. So we're trying to teach our kids how to play that one at this point, and that started in Game Pass, and we actually picked up the game when it was on sale because the digital currency for the game that you can use to buy the season passes in there,
Mhm.
it was cheaper to buy the ultimate edition of the game and get the currency that was in it than it was to pay for the currency outright.
Yeah, I can imagine. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. And this is where I think the physicals is still quite a good value system, especially for games like that. If you can get those packages, they're worth it. They are really worth it. And what's great is that as you said, you've got it physically. So should it go at any point, you've still got it.
No, digitally. Well, and that's also a server-based game.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah,
So if that does go off, well, yeah, I see what you're saying because you've got So,
yeah,
it's a
plenty of
shame.
people have made the argument
Does
about
it have an
we
offline
don't
mode?
really ever order games, especially with server ones, if they flip the server off. But at the same point, I played the game for example, Destiny 2 is a server-side game, and I played that over 6,500 hours. I got my money worth out of it.
Oh
If they're
yeah,
not
I mean you can
How many
play
hours
that
back?
offline.
How many hours was that back?
somewhere around 6,500
My goodness,
over the last 6 years.
it's insane.
So a weekend for you, VJ.
I thought my 500 hours or 499 hours in Divinity was a lot, but yeah, I think I just take a back seat.
But I'm correct in thinking that even Destiny is an offline mode, isn't there? So which you can still enjoy the
No,
game.
Destiny does not have an offline mode.
Oh, okay.
I wish it did. Quite honestly, I'd probably run more stuff offline in Destiny if they added a mode like that, because there's certain content and like bounties and stuff and quests in the game. It's easier to complete.
Yep.
Solo because, and this has been a problem a long time for Destiny. That
Isn't it because
most
it
of the
ramps
stuff you do
difficulty?
is not. It doesn't track as an entire team. Where it only tracks individually. So you're fighting against two other people, and it's more frustrating than not. Where most games, it's like if I want to play a game with you, and we go do a mission or go do a bounty, it tracks as a team. The only game that kind of has a horrific issue with that, as far as that goes, like playing with others, is Elder Scrolls Online. If you are not on the same step as the person next to you, you won't progress.
That's one of the reasons why I've kind of over the years have just slowly distanced myself with server-based games. It's just for me. It's just like I've kind of just like at any point I've some other server-based games I really enjoyed have basically no longer exist now, and I'm just like, that's
what, RuneScape?
No, ironically, it was. Oh my god, what was it? It was it was a Marvel's game. What was it? It was a Marvel's game that basically got cancelled. Literally, I think about a year after it got released. I can't think what it's called now.
DC Universe. Now that was around a while, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't DC Universe. It was literally a Marvel's game with it was an isometric. Oh God, I can't think of what it's called. It's Ultimate Heroes or something. Ultimate Heroes.
Ultimate Alliance.
Ultimate Alliance.
No, you
absolutely
can still play Ultimate Alliance.
Ultimate
I think the
Alliance.
service. No, it was. They basically killed the servers and everything was completely
That
wiped.
was on the Switch, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah, it was basically you got all your money back, and if fair to say, give you all your money back, but it got completely. You couldn't play it anymore. They literally, the moment you logged on, it was like this game is no longer.
You're on about Avengers, no?
No, it was. I'll try and see if I can find it.
It's not Ultimate Alliance because Ultimate Alliance has been delisted in the Xbox store. But if you bought the game digitally, or you go out and buy either go out and get one, or you have a physical copy of Ultimate Alliance for Xbox, you could still play it. You just can't buy it digitally on the Xbox store.
It was one I'm trying to think of what it's called. The one I had, I'm sure it's Marvel's one. The one I had, literally every time I tried, mine was digital, but every time I tried, I couldn't find a physical copy of it. Every time I should go into it, it basically came up with this is no longer playable. Servers offline. Boom, that's it. You couldn't get into it. They basically just kind of stopped me from playing it. And I was like, yeah, you've got me. And that was the one that killed me. I was like, that's it. I'm not, I can't be bothered to kind of keep going down this sort of path. So I kind of distanced myself from a lot of service, sort of Marvel Heroes Omega.
Oh, okay.
That was it. Sorry, it's not Ultimate Alliance, it's Marvel Heroes Omega. So yeah, that was the one that kind of killed my enthusiasm for servers, server-like games. So actually, it was a really good game. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I was just one of those games that I was really plowing time into it, and then it was just like gone, and I was like, oh, and it just really left me with a sour taste, and that's why kind of like I'm very hesitant with server-like games. That's why I'm a little bit hesitant with Suicide Squad. They did say it was going to be an offline mode, isn't they? If I remember correctly.
Yes, they did after some messaging. They did. Who's got a TV on?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear that now?
I can hear it now. Yeah. Yeah.
He's watching us. It's that extra viewer. He's actually back watching it on TV and on his PC.
Yeah.
That's why we get that extra. Viewership up for us.
Hey, if I want to pull up on my phone as well, you'd have 3 off of just 1.
Exactly. See, look, this is how we know. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I've always been a little bit hesitant with this. But I mean, we played. We can now talk about it. We played.
Yeah.
The Avengers, Justice League Alpha, and all 3 of us.
Yeah.
And because I actually got 2 codes and I gave them to you and VJ, didn't I?
You did, yeah. Because I was like,
how'd you get in there?
Yeah, I was like, how did you get that? I was like, well, you were in there. So they give you codes, don't they?
Yeah, I'm just one of those ones. I've tried to beta test if I can try and get into some of the betas and test. I don't mind testing, and playing the game because I think it might help games. If I can help games become better, why not try and test them out? Why not help them out?
So, because I think you also, I don't know whether you can say or not, but I think you dabbled into Skull and Bones too, didn't you? Or can't you say?
Yes, I did.
Is that all you can say? Yeah.
That is, which is strange actually. No, that you can actually talk about that because the whole load of people, unlike this one, people were streaming it the moment it was on the alpha.
Oh, fair.
Okay. And I was like, oh, okay. So that one's actually, you can talk about different. That. I actually kind of enjoyed that one as well. I actually quite liked it. It's not like Black Flag, though. I will say that. It's not like Black Flag, so don't go thinking it is.
Let's talk about
But this is the one we're talking about, isn't it?
Squad. Yeah, sorry about that.
But what did you think for it as you played it? What did you...
I liked it. I thought it was fun with friends. I didn't get that much time in the game. only time I got into games with you and VJ, and I enjoyed my time with it, and I do want it. However, not sure I can raise the £70 to buy it at the minute. But I do want the game. It is a game I want. It's one of my most anticipated this year. And obviously I missed the Prince of Persia bit. I do like the Prince of Persia demo. I think it's good. Not played much of it. Well, I've got initial impressions of it, but I like it. It may be a game I might pick up at some point, but funds ain't good at this time of the year. They're not. But Suicide Squad, it's definitely a game I'm looking forward to. I probably won't be able to buy it on release, but I do want to pick it up at some point. I do, because I think it'd be. I think it'd be good to play together. I do.
I know
it's
this
definitely.
Is really, I'm sorry. I guess this is for everybody, really. I hate to be the bearer of negativity,
bad news.
But I called, Gotham Knights and a few others to come to Game Pass, and they did. And
you're right, you did.
I just don't know. There's a lot of removable. I say this because there's a hell of a lot of games this first quarter. A lot of competition where even some AAAs are having to release on the same date, like The Rise of Ronin and Dragon's Dogma, and then 1 week later you got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is from a pre-order perspective is like almost selling 4 to 5 to 1 to its next bestseller, which is a multi-format game. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Dragon's Dogma or something. And then everything else is failing in comparison. And I was speaking to somebody, and Suicide Squad pre-orders aren't that great. And I know that's not it's not a massive indication, but it is a good indication. And I'm just thinking, how long before. I know that, what was it? Was it Harry Potter? It was a massive hit for them, and Mortal Kombat did well for them. But obviously Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad just seems to me, depending on how good the campaign is, if there is a campaign, and if it really is because I remember you talking about the initial interactions with Batman and everything. You thought, hang on a minute, this storyline's for me. So we don't know how good that the narrative and the storyline is, because that could actually just sway it for everybody. But because the demo doesn't really portray that fully, right?
No, it gives you a hint, and I won't go too much, but it does give you a hint in terms of the storyline. And we saw a clip with Batman, and it's much darker and brutal than what I would say is generally DC characters are. So much, it's from the actual gameplay, from the actual slight snippet storyline we saw. It was a very much darker and brutal sort of situation, which fits well with this anti-hero type sort of game.
Not as brutal as Indy's comment in the chat. Suicide Squad, save your money, Stubsy. 2 thumbs.
It's only because he wants me to buy indie games. That's why.
Exactly. To be honest with you, it's one of these things. They haven't done themselves favors. I mean, first of all, it was a limited alpha. The alpha then wasn't allowed to be talked about, so it wasn't allowed to hype it when there was hype. Then it had kind of a lot of mixed messaging in its advertisement. It's effectively, in terms of promotion, it's been dire. It has generally been dire, and so I can't blame anyone but Rocksteady in terms of what people are assuming or thinking this game is. It is literally, if you hadn't played the alpha, would you actually know what this game was about?
No.
Based on promotion alone?
No idea. I'd have just thought that this game is publisher driven, not developer driven in terms of the product that they're making. Secondly, that the game is suffering an identity crisis, the fact that they wanted it to be one thing as a cash cow, so that'd have to be games as a service or live or gas or whatever the terminology is. And then they're saying, well, hang on a minute, people are expecting Rocksteady, a single player developer who makes masterpieces on par with Sony almost, with Batman in tow, because we've seen games without Batman or sub characters from the Batman universe don't really have the pull in public to sell millions of copies. And we're going to have to build in a strong narrative driven game as well as what we want in terms of long, like you said, like we're talking about Starfield, right? Like, it may not have shifted the units physically. Well, it hasn't, right? In compared to if it was selling on a multi format. So they've got $1 billion to find, in revenue, bookable revenue to find from somewhere, right? In terms of the units they would have sold over a 5-year period. But obviously there's 5-year master plan. But not every game survives 5 years, and I just worry for Suicide Squad in terms of what is it that you're trying to be? Are you trying to be something for everybody, and as well as keeping, the cornerstone of what the publisher wanted initially? Which again, it really does lead to makes me believe, or makes me. I think I might have spoken to somebody on Discount. I don't want to misspeak, but I think it was this game where it is publisher led and not developer led in terms of what they wanted to make, and perhaps that's why Sefton Hill's left. I don't, or being asked to leave, or whatever the case may be.
It's a weird one, because from the glimpse of the story I saw in the alpha, it showed promise. It really showed a really promising, interesting storyline. But then it's wrapped around a kind of open world multiplayer sort of situation, and so
who's going to say shenanigans?
Lose that.
Who's going to say shenanigans?
Yeah, but the trouble is that can then easily be lost in terms of its overarching. That gritty story can easily be lost within just a deluge of grindy side quests, and if they don't micromanage that carefully, that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be a deluge of micromanaging grindy side quests with maybe a very nice, good in-depth story. But if you're spending, 3/4 of your time having to mess around doing all these silly side quests and not engage with the story, it doesn't matter how good that story is going to be. If you're spending too much time on these silly side quests.
I think what you said, trailers and demos, is really important. I'm trying to understand what is it that they're trying to sell, and secondly, removal. On the flip hand, even looking at it more suspectfully, is that what are you trying to hide?
Well, I think if I'm honest, I mean, I quite enjoyed the game. I actually kind of enjoyed the actual alpha, but if I'm honest, I think they switched it up. I think they had a premise of it being an online service model. It was noted, or it was leaked, that it was going to be an online service model, and then it got heavily backlash, and then they panicked and went, "Oh, let's try and not make this an online service model.
Let's stick a story in it, and let's let it be everything to every man, woman, and child."
And that's the problem. It doesn't always work that way.
18 months, is it?
But what's the story? What's the story actually in Reddit? They just went for the live service element instead. Was it there? It could have already been there.
Don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, it could have been. Again, the story, from what I gauged, is actually quite intriguing, quite gritty and dark, which I quite like. And then they could have just wrapped this live service around it, a bit like the Avengers, where you had actually not a bad storyline, but then you just had really.
Avengers in the end though improved it, and they kept giving out free content in the end, but they gave up with it. But they did. They did turn it around. They did.
Well, yeah, but by then it's too late. Then that's the problem. Yeah. Once you've, the thing that killed me with Avengers, I actually quite liked the storyline, but the side quests again was just too gritty, boring, and grindy. Yeah, and it was just grindy for me. So I never.
Remember, I've got a question to ask you. How did you get that code? BMG was asking. Were you in some kind of DC program, or did you just apply for the?
You can. So for those who you can actually ask to be in the betas.
Is there some kind of program where you just get sent all the?
Yeah, go to the DC website, and they do actually have a beta testers program, or which you can join, and basically you then ask to join and play test games for them.
There you go, BMG.
And depending on your stats and how you react, they'll add you in. I think generally they're pretty good to actually invite most people. They want more people in these games, but they do have strict NDAs. Hence the reason why when I was speaking to Stubz and VJ, I was like, don't say where you got this. You can't say anything. Yeah. You cannot say a single thing. I've signed an NDA, so please don't. And it's just a case of be part of the beta testers.
Okay.
Removable. I would say that I enjoyed playing what we did together because it was just because of the interaction with other human beings. It was a lot of fun, and with Stubbs as well. So if it came to Game Pass, I think it would be like Back for Blood for me, where I play it together with you. But if when the reviews come out and there's a fantastic storyline to it, like the Batman Arkham games, then I'll be there. And I just had a question for from Back. Sorry, Back. I didn't know if you'd mentioned if you'd played it or missed I think or the alpha or the alpha test, if that's what it was called. Did you get a chance, or did you miss it?
No, I haven't. I haven't played it yet, and I'm also kind of curious if, at least for me, I haven't been impressed with all the shows and movies that in the DC universe at this point. I mean, the last, even binge watching Smallville again with my wife. I got to go back that far to find a DC show that I actually want to watch.
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, try not let the recent movies kind of taint your viewship. I can understand why you're going down that path, because you're like, if the writing's that bad in some of the movies, is the writing here going to be better?
I mean, Ben Affleck did not help, and who knows if it was just his acting, or if it was just him, and he didn't make a believable Batman for me, and neither did the guy that they picked as Superman. And I know he's moved on. It sounds like he's more producing and directing more production cast at this point. But Tom Mullen looks exactly like Superman, even at his age right now. Now, his age right now, he's doing a podcast with Michael Rosenbaum.
Yep. I know the one you're talking about.
They're rewatching all the Smallville shows, and they'll do a podcast on each episode, and they'll talk about much of behind the scenes stuff. So I mean, that's really cool. But like I said, I gotta go that far back. I gotta go back to, I haven't, because mixed reviews on if he could play it. I haven't watched the was it Robert Pattinson Batman yet? I think that's who played in the newest one.
Robert Matheson. Yeah, he was in. He was in the sparkly vampire thing, wasn't he?
Yeah, Twilight.
I don't think he'll be able to do it. The trouble is with Batman, at least in my opinion, he's the gritty darkness. He's the one who's won't kill, but he's pretty close to that line. He's the brutal, effectively more brutal, darker version of it. So I don't think Matheson's got enough gruffness or presence to do that. Same with Affleck. I didn't feel like he had the presence. It's that. Do you know Keaton? Did you just like the ironically, they did a recent film. What is it? I can't think what it's called. The Flash, the new Flash one, and from the film itself, it was absolutely awful. But Keaton's acting ability still managed to bring the grittiness in. For me, it was like I felt that film did him so much injustice, because it was like it did poorly, but his role was really, really superb. And I was like, oh my god, why didn't they bring him back? Because ironically, he still has that darkness and that gritty realism to it. And it's the same thing on this game. I still, at least from what we saw here, it does seem to be the writing is a bit more gritty and darker. So at least from the Batman side of things, I was quite surprised and impressed with at least with that clip, because you only get to see it, I'd say, probably a couple of minutes of Batman in this, and it's I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just say it did make me go, oh wow, this is a lot darker than I expected. Really did kind of set me back, and I was actually like, this is intriguing me.
You get the concept of why the Justice League are acting bad, though, don't you? You get that, don't you? You get the idea of why the Justice League are acting bad, don't you?
Oh yes, that was the thing. Yeah, this is an anti-hero game, and where you're trying to root for the anti-heroes.
It's not them doing it. It's not them doing it.
Yeah. you know, they're basically been forced into a position. I don't want to say too much about it. So
they're under mind control. No, they are.
But yeah,
they're not.
Yeah, they're making, and that's what was interesting when I was listening to. I already have that part spoiled for me, but yeah, that I think it was Steel Rain was talking. It's either Steel Rain or Pong Soul was talking on Living Split Screen about it, and they were talking about like basically Batman doesn't has his moral compass the way he would have before.
He has no moral compass in this, and
where
that's the thing that kind
Batman
of got
always
me. I was
had
like,
the policy he wouldn't kill anyone.
That's right. Yeah.
There's certain lines you don't cross between.
Put it this way: the CUC literally, the CUC in the game literally shows that that line is not only crossed, it is wiped out. And you're like, the thing I kind of think is like, if he remembers the line he's crossed, how the hell is he going to morally recover from that? And I'm just going to say it like that. You see, he doesn't cross the line; he jumps well across the line. And I'm like, oh, that's what got me. It was like, as you said, there's a moral line that he never he budges up against, but he never goes beyond. It's always there. It's always his compass. And here, it's just destroyed. It's blown out of the water. And I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. But that's the problem. I think, to be honest with you, I think it's one of the things. I think they may have a really good story here. From at least from that aspect, it does look like it's a good moral story. But it's the case of, is it wrapped in grind and fluff to get to that story? Because if that's the case, that's going to put a lot of people off. You know, if it's fun and it's really tied in well, then yes, people will enjoy it. And one of the reasons that I kind of was mentioning to Stubz and VJ is that at least when I was playing, the side missions or the quests seemed more curated and not one of these procedurally generated, which the Avengers felt like. It felt like just procedurally generated collection destroy quests, and nothing really changed. Here, at least, it did seem a little bit more of a curated.
Yeah. Oh, here.
Yeah, they're just not just
they put some thought into it rather than So for me, that was like, okay, it's already better than the Avengers. You know, let's see. I'm more inclined to give it a shot, put it this way, than I was originally. And so that's how I kind of viewed it. It's like I went in probably thinking the worst, and I've come out going, okay, I'll give it a shot. So that's quite a big swing, at least for me. Now, other people are go in there and go, actually, no chance. This is not going to touch it.
There's just a lot of competition removable, and that's the key, right? And like I think, as what's his name, Mr. Lord Stubz pointed out, 70 quid. When that money can go towards a lot of indie games, a lot of other AAA games. I mean, I've earmarked Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right, for February. That's the I don't only Silk Song could knock me off my stride, but I don't think it's gonna. Oh, it might do. Never say never, right? But it's just a hell of a lot of competition.
It is. I reckon it's meant to be a bigger year than last year. Like Indie Game was saying, this year would be the biggest game for games or something like that. Mark my words. So last year was a big year. So what the hell is this year going to be? If it's going to be topped.
I think, to be honest with you, I think it's getting into its stride. The game, as with every generation, the new generation of consoles, it takes about 1 or 2 years to get into its stride, and I think this year it's going to do that.
1 or 2. The Series X is its 4th year now, isn't it? Be the 4th year sometime this year it will be.
Yeah, but remember, it's when they drop it out, you never really see the potential until about year 3 or a couple of years down the line.
You never see the potential. You never see it. Not the full potential.
I would say you're starting to see the full potential right near the end of its lifetime.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I agree, and then
they bring a new console out.
That's why I think a lot of the Sony first-party content, will straddle this gen and next gen. And they don't need to, right? They're already selling the hardware. Anyway, that's going off topic there. But what I will say though, Removable, when I first got past the demo of Suicide Squad, the tutorial mode. I beg your pardon. Sorry, no offense, Mr. Stubz. Please
Tutorial
don't cut me off.
gamer.
Yeah, when we got off the tutorial phase, the tutorial part of the demo or the alpha test was horrible. But when I got into actually the main city and everything, and going through the story, and you were curating the curated demo, right? Well,
because I'd completed it, so it's like I was like doing it a second time with you guys.
Yeah, so you were curating the curated demo for us, and and then it got a lot more interesting. And I have to say, from a technical perspective, this studio is excellent. I'm not talking about character design or game design or level design or production values and all that. I'm just always thinking that when they deliver on a technical level, the PC port will just be rubbish now, won't it?
Well, yeah, you're right. Well, to be honest with you, what this reminded me of, this felt like Batman Gotham City, but from the Injustice's Suicide Squad's point of view. And I think maybe that's what they're trying to aim for. They're aiming for the Batman Gotham City with all the different peoples, all the different aspects. Like, they had this, they had the Riddler in there. They had the same things what you'd expect from the Batman Gotham City, and they kind of transferred it over to this. And in my head, I kind of wondered if that's what their ethos was. It's like, we'll take Batman Gotham City and make it multiplayer, but with also the cool storyline. And I think that's what they were aiming for. But I suspect somewhere during that process, some PR or top CEO was like, we're going to make this a live service.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh crap. So they've then had to stuff that in. And then all of a sudden it's like backlash. It's like, live service? No way am I buying it. At which point they go, right, we've now got to take it all out again.
Hence the 18-month delay, and hence the 6 years that we've been waiting for a game for Rocksteady.
Well, apparently it's
not really anything. I don't think it's any through any fault of the developer, because you can see that they're using
you can see that from the game. It's
one of the developers was saying how they seen it, the post in the shop. It was good to see a post of the game they've been working on for the past 7 years. So it's nice to see for a developer. They went into a shop and there was a big Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League poster there, and I just see a tweet from them. That was all. And they were saying 7 years. 7 years.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me with Suicide Squad is that it's had no decent promotion. It's had no clarity in terms of what they're selling, and it has had no.
Sorry, Removal. I was gonna make a comment on that, because this quarter, right, you've got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Rise of the Ronin, two second-party. They're not third party, they're second party games for Sony, right? And then they've also got the marketing deal for this game. And I was just going to say, that Final Fantasy just seems to be everywhere every day. They're really behind it. And Rise of the Ronin, I don't know when that gets its state of play, because it does need it. It does look good, but I have to say, in the last trailer, that dodgy horse animation is still there, Removable. Everything else looks great, but that dodgy horse animation.
I know exactly what you was like. Yeah, I said that to you, didn't I? I said, what's that? Is that horse? Because I sent it to you, and I was like, is that horse?
It won't be long until state of play happens, because they want to overshadow the Xbox Developer Direct, so they'll do it shortly after.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but my point stands, right? Final Fantasy, Rise of the Ronin, and then where does this come in? I mean, this did have a state of play post or prior to being delayed another year, so I can't blame Sony, because they did do what they were supposed to do, right? But obviously, there's a lot more to be done. I think Removable spot on, and
you think it's the second it comes. Sorry, yeah, it's the second of the second it comes out. What promotion have you seen about this on social media?
I've seen
more for Infinite. I've seen more for Infinite Wealth.
I've only seen, because I follow their Twitter account. That's literally all I've seen. So, actual promoting, advertising, nothing really.
That's disingenuous, because yesterday I saw a tweet from Lord Stubz saying, this is my most anticipated game of the
This is
game
true.
of the year. So it has had PR.
Yeah, but it's
From
from their
Stubz, yeah,
but
admittedly, he's
yeah,
getting the game free. Yeah,
yeah, but
No,
it's
it's a
from
joke.
their,
It's a joke.
yeah, it's from their Twitter account
Dry
though.
humor. Dry humor.
yeah.
Oh, mighty. Proud.
But I'm just saying, this is why I'm interested in what back, because it's like back. If you has it effectively has social media sold it to you, this game, and from the sounds of it, it's no,
No,
has
not
it?
at all.
Sold you nothing
No, he's
at all.
waiting-
So it's like,
No,
waiting for
even-
how do you
75%
expect?
discount.
Yeah,
Even watching where it's popped up in different like game shows when they're like different state of plays or Xbox or whatever, as far as different shows it's appeared on, even that it's like, okay, what's it about?
Mhm.
They give you a flashy trailer. I don't think I've seen much gameplay, if any, at all. So it almost like Rocksteady's just writing on their name from Batman Arkham City and Arkham Knight, which to me it could sell me on that right away anyways, but it doesn't look like it's, like you said, it's not that type of a game. And the overall perception I've heard from people who have already played it is it's not that game, and there's a lot of the media that's apparently saying basically, well, we didn't want this game. Well, is it a bad game? We're not going to address that fact. And that's why they lifted the NDA. For people who, okay, what's your opinion of this game? Not the game you wanted or the game you thought that would be coming from Rocksteady, but is this a good game? And that's a whole different mess. If you're asking somebody, okay, well, I didn't ask for this game. Okay, well, is the game good? Well, I don't know. Either they didn't play it, or if they did play it, well, I didn't pay attention enough because I didn't want this game anyways.
Well, no one asks for games, do they?
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, no, I think they do. I think there's a lot of games that we want, like GTA 6, and that's So no, don't get trust. There is games that I think, to be honest with you, for what they screwed themselves over, because when I was talking to people who were other players who had actually played this, not VJ and Stubz, they were actually like, yeah, this is actually kind of fun game.
It is.
And they were frustrated they couldn't talk about it. And there's like, do they not want us to kind of hype this game? Why do they want us to hype this game up? And then by the time they got to the NDA release, most people had kind of a sour taste in their mouth. Because like, no, I'm too late now. I'm doing other things now. Sorry, mate.
Remember, can I just say, I may have the timing wrong. Can you just confirm they did that just as the bad press was hitting, right? And when they should have really allowed us to talk about it before, and that may have helped sway the opinions of the press.
Yeah.
Bad move. It's just bad management on top of bad management from.
It was if literally they had
to PR.
If they had literally released, if they had got rid of the NDA from the moment they did the alpha test, I think you would have seen a hell of a different take on the game, because it got bad press from some journalists who clearly didn't like it, and that's fine. They're entitled to their opinion, but it kind of drowned out any potential positivity. And because they left it too late, there was people who were trying to say, actually, I really like it. Like myself, I was like, yeah, actually, I quite like it. And there were people like, I just cannot be asked to wait around. It's like, now I've got other things to do now. I'm not talking about it.
Well, part of that
So
goes down to, I heard about the event that they basically asked the mainstream media to come out and play the game. Apparently, that was much more scripted than how they handed you guys the game and said, hey, go play the game and, tell me what you think of it. You've got infinite time to play this until it comes out, where the press is... If the press would have been just giving copies of the game and that's what they would have rated, it might have been better than asking them to come out to an exclusive event and say, okay, the way it was described to me basically was, here's one character, play it for 20 minutes. Here's second character, play it for 20 minutes.
That would not have gone well. Yeah, to be honest with you, what sold me slightly, and what probably I'm not going to speak for the others, was the fact that we could switch characters at any time. We could play and explore the city together at any time for 2 to 3 days over how we wished it. And it was just, we had the freedom to do what we wanted. And they gave you that freedom to do what you wanted. So if that's correct, if they've done a scripted event for this game, it is going to be a very much more negative opinion based on that. Because to be honest with you, it doesn't lend itself well to like an hour's gameplay, and that's it. It just doesn't. It plays better with friends the more you play it. It just doesn't play. If I played this for an hour, I'd be exactly the same. Like, what's this about? Yeah, I'd be exactly the same.
Technically, this game has been executed really well, but removable. I hate to say it, but somewhere along the line, the key people on the project, it seemed like they lost their passion. Not from a technical perspective, but like in the sense that what the hell is it that we're making? You know, because the previous Batman game didn't suffer from any of this.
No. It's, and I think, to be honest with you, I think there's someone higher up has got their mitts into it.
Yep.
Said we are making this a live service, and that has killed probably the enthusiasm for the game. And then it's gone back upon itself, and now they've tried to recapture that enthusiasm for it. You know, I'm hoping. You said we had fun with it, didn't we? Just playing around.
Yeah. Like I said,
we had fun with it.
Yeah.
If this was in Game Pass, it was reasonably priced, and you said, "Hey, VJ, should we shell out 30, 40 quid to play a co-op and play and get stubs involved?"
100%. I'd be playing this with him for probably for the whole game and maybe even more.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And that should tell you really all you need to know is if this was on Game Pass or this was around the 30-40 pounds, I'd probably be sitting down with VJ and Stubbs, and we'd be going through this game and absolutely having a ball for it. And unfortunately, it's management. I think maybe that's what it ended up. Maybe that's what will happen. It'll end up being $70, and then a month later, 2 months later, bam.
That's where I think Stubbs was spot on when he said 70 quid. No, I really like the game, but 70 quid to play this game, there's a lot of other choices. So if it was 30 to 40 quid, I think even Stubbs would think twice and say, you know what, if it is that price, I would have been in it. I'd be there with both of you for sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not living up to its value currently. I'm not saying it won't change when the reviews come out and when there's more footage and people really know the full story, because it's all conjecture at the moment. So I'm still willing to give it that opportunity. It's hard to see. And it's not a good look when Sefton Hill says, "Oh, by the way, I'm leaving," you know, and he's left already, hasn't he? Yeah, beginning of the year. It's not good, is it?
It does make you wonder what is going on there.
He should be there all the way through up until launch, because up until that point, you have press duties around the world. And to say that you're going prior to that was from my background, that's a bit of an alarm bell removable.
Well, that's the kind of thing that kind of, as I said to you, I was like, this is where I kind of believe that the CEO's forced in live service. It's pissed him off, and then he's basically, they said, "Oh no!" After Backlash, try and sort it out, and he's now got to build his team's enthusiasm again, and it's just probably killed. It's just probably killed his enthusiasm.
He's not the only one. He's not the only one that's gone.
No, that's what I said. I said he had to try and build a team back up with all that enthusiasm. And I think the damage has been done now. And they buggered off.
But can I just say, when I said from a technical perspective, you look at the models and how well they're crafted, how it's all put together. You can't say that there isn't a level of professionalism in that studio, because it's from looking at this, even though if you don't like the character designs or whatever, that's irrelevant. Yeah. But from a technical delivery perspective, it's right up there.
It was smooth. It was beautiful. It was enticing. So, you know, the trouble is there is a hell of a lot of premise here. Absolutely hell of a lot of premise here that just oozes good quality. But then, as you said, it's like the heart's being kicked out of it, and that's where I think that's live bloody service came in, kicked the heart out of it. So, I mean, I'm hoping that maybe the main chunk of the game, when that happened, maybe hope the game had kind of like had been finished, and it's only going to say damaged 10 or 20% of it. But I don't know, and we won't know until it's it's released.
I hope it's better than what we think, but unfortunately, we can only comment as critics, right? And I know we're at the end of the day, we're just parasites in disguise, right? But it's but we can only speak of what we can see, and we have to take into consideration, as I say, some of the other games that are coming out in and around the release of this game are going to put it under an incredible amount of pressure. And I think your call about the price point is going to be at full price with no competition for about 3 weeks, and then all those other games start coming out. And unless those games are terrible, it's going to be under a lot of pressure.
Well, to be honest with you, even 4 weeks, to be honest with you, how many people are just going to mark that side for the other games?
That's the thing, right? If you take on average that, the game ratio over a lifetime is 10-1, 10 games per console. That's
now,
and then
you don't know because
4 games are coming out in 4 weeks. You're absolutely spot on.
Here's a question for you. Do you think this will be thrown into Game Pass as a from the start?
Sony marketing deal that might be prohibited from doing so.
That's a good point. Yeah, they won't have that in there.
I don't know, Removal. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know for fact.
However,
I'm just saying.
there has been games put into Game Pass and PS Plus at the same time before, but not brand new games like this. But it has happened. But it all depends on the terms, obviously. But
this is the thing. I'm just wondering whether. Go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say Resident Evil 2 remakes in Game Pass and PS Plus today. Yippee!
I mean, my gut feeling is if they see the writing on the wall, and they don't see the pre-orders coming at $70.
Yeah.
Financially, it makes viable sense for both parties, Sony and Xbox, to go right. We're whacking it on the service subscriptions, put it on there,
PS Plus.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe that's what they're thinking of doing. Maybe I'm being, maybe because that's why they're not promoting it so much. Maybe that's what's going to happen. They're just going to throw it out. They go, by the way, everyone, it's on our service.
Remember, you review a lot of obscure games, right? So the only other thing I could think that might be a saving grace for this game, is cult following.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's going to be fans for the game. There's fans for the Suicide Squad because the films ironically did pretty well, and there is fans of the comic book series. But I don't think I think the fan base isn't as huge as, say, the Marvel fan base. It's a much more reduced fan base. So for your perfect example is like your DC fighting games. They do well, but they're nowhere in the league of Mortal Kombat, even though it's made by the same studio. So that should give you a rough indication in terms of what the fan base is like. I think there is a good fan base here, but is it enough to keep it afloat? Probably not.
They'll probably make enough money by selling the skins on Fortnite or something and get their money back in development. $300 a skin. Hey.
It's if my gut feeling is this is one of these games that I think it'll be picked up and enjoyed once it's dropped to half price or it's on a service system, and then people will be like, "Oh my god, this is a really good game. Why did we not think about it?" And then, but that'll be too late by then. And then that's the seven. But right at the beginning, I don't think it's gonna. As Stubz said, $70. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I think I have to go with what Stubbs said and what Indie Game is echoing and what you're saying. And given that back goes for 75% discounts at year end, like I do, just blows my mind that people would pre-order this for $70 or pounds. Sorry.
Well, that and the fact it's got no PR. You're pre-ordering something that you have no knowledge of. Who's going to do that?
I never knew that. It's the same studio as Mortal Kombat. Yeah, that's crazy.
Really? Did you not? You never know that?
I didn't know that.
What's that? Which studio?
NetherRealm make Mortal Kombat and the Injustice DC fighting games.
Yeah, they did.
Not know that.
Yeah, and if you look at the sales for both, you'll see who's the market leader, and it's not DC.
It's Mortal Kombat.
No.
Yeah, so apparently Injustice 2, and they haven't made one in quite a while, all the way back on 360, sold almost 2 million copies. Mortal Kombat 11 sold over 80 million copies.
Wow.
So yeah, you're definitely talking about a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Just remember, Mortal Kombat
were you
is
the one,
got
were you the one who bought
sorry.
the 70 million? You the one? Everybody else bought one each. You're the one who bought 70 million copies at 89% off, right?
That UK Dazarus is one of them.
No,
too.
I do love that game though. It's got a fantastic story in the base game and the DLC.
Yeah, without doubt. And the irony is that the DC universe has a much more historical background and longer background, a longer fan base than Mortal Kombat, and yet Mortal Kombat is doing, as you said, 20, 30 times more than the DC. So unfortunately, over the generations of fans, the DC fan base has reduced and it has gotten smaller.
It's their own fault.
It's not there is a loyal fan base there, but I don't think it's going to help it.
No.
Yeah. Actually, a question for you, because you're being too quiet or too polite. I don't know which one. But what price would this have to be next Thanksgiving in order for you to pick it up?
$15.
No, I mean, I don't think the price point says more about the quality and how much time they put into it. So if they're trying to get it off the shelf, I'll buy almost any AAA game at $20. If it's 30 to 40, I'm most likely asking my friends and even that does dial into it, asking if my friends are playing it. If there's only a couple of them, maybe one of them, sure, maybe 30, 40 bucks. But even at the price point of $70, if I got a dozen friends that are playing the game, everybody's like, hey, oh, it's so much fun. Grassroots marketing, I pay more attention to that than anything. I don't even read most reviews. They're online. Sometimes, like occasionally, once in a while, I'll go on to lordsofgaming.net and read their stuff because I think there's more integrity in what they write than the mainstream media at that point. Because I'm talking to gamers that, quite honestly, I can hit up on Xbox Live and talk to them or play a game with them.
Yeah, we had Chris on. We had C Unit on last week from Lords of Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
We did.
Yeah, I've got him on my friends list. I just haven't talked to him yet. No, assuming he comes to Boston in March, I'll actually get to meet him in person, along with a lot of people that I interact with between podcasts and playing games with them online as well. But as far as the selling, like I was saying, as far as $70 price point, if you have enough of your friends that are playing a game like that, it's same thing as Destiny, same thing as Call of Duty, any multiplayer game. You're not going to flinch at the price point if you value the idea of interacting with your friends in a game and talking to them, and you're all having fun with it.
Yep.
That's how I got 6,500 hours, like somewhere around there, in Destiny 2. It's because I've got dozens of friends. Half my friends list on Xbox is all people who play that game. So if it's a community game like that, and you're all getting into it and all hanging out and having fun together, that'll sell me more than, okay, if it's a single player game and I'm just playing the game myself, it's harder to sell me on that to drag me away. Okay, I just want to focus on the game and the story. I don't want to talk to anyone. If you value the community aspect more than, sometimes you do need to isolate and decompress, and just have time to yourself. Community games are easier to sell to me in that sense, and playing multiplayer, having fun with friends, than a solo experience would be. So the game does have something going for it.
Yep. Okay.
I think that's a really sharp take.
It is. No, he's got a good point. You have back.
You've got
it leads to a nice positive take as well.
Indie Gamer, I do love your feedback on the Justice League. Don't change, because it's good to be brutally honest. He has no interest in the game, and it is good to be honest about what you do want to play and what you don't want to play. So
it's every game's different, isn't it? Some people, every gaming's different. It's not as if like we're all stuck under the same thing, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's and you shouldn't be afraid to say, if you hate Metroidvanias, say you hate Metroidvanias. You hate Hollow Knight, just say it.
oh,
Well, but that's another aspect that takes issue when you're talking about mainstream media.
Yep.
Say indie gamer works for IGN, probably never happen. But just hypothetical situation, he works for IGN, his boss comes in and says, "Okay, I want you to play this, this multiplayer AAA experience." And he looks back at him and says, "Dude, I'm a fan of indie games." "Oh, no, that doesn't matter. We want you to play this one."
it's a good point.
"Okay, your job depends on it." "Okay, I'll play it, but you know what kind of review you're going to get out of that? You're not going to get the same review you get from someone like me or somebody who enjoys, AAAs more. I mean, I still enjoy indie games, but if you're giving it to someone who doesn't enjoy the genre, doesn't enjoy AAAs, doesn't enjoy the aspect of grinding out a loot system, which if that's in the game, I'm not going to mind it because I like games like Diablo 4, Destiny 2, Division, Anthem, if
And
they
the
would have
irony is,
supported it.
what you've described has happened numerous
Yeah.
times. Whether there is, and there has had, it has had gaming websites where you've seen in the reviewers' own descriptions, "I love JRPGs and I hate fighting games," and then you see them review a fighting game, and you're like, "Well, that's no. What? Why?" And
Exactly.
there is a reason for it. The reason is because they've run out of people to review, and they needed to get that review out quickly, and therefore it's whoever's going to review it. It doesn't matter. It's going to be just as long as the review's out.
It just
Because
goes to
9
what
times out of 10,
it just goes to back what Back said a few minutes ago, right? He says, "Look, I
Mm.
go to a very specific site, Lords of Gaming, because I can trust their integrity." Versus, "Hey, this is your job's on the line. Someone else is reviewing Rise of the Ronin, and we know you wanted it, but here you go. Here's a little game called Suicide Squad, and we know all the positive variables in the world have got to come together at once in order for it to be a success. But anyway, it's yours."
Yep, exactly.
Exactly.
I've
And
got something to bring up quickly.
Hope it's not your dinner.
No, removable. Indie Gamer, I just noticed in chat that he's heard that Gamer now are going to be stopping physical trade-ins.
This is correct. Yes,
and they may as well shut their doors, to be honest, because they're just a toy shop.
I think this is something I mentioned probably about last year. I can't remember when, but it was on the show, and I think I mentioned to you it was that I saw more stuff like Funko Pop and plushies and badges than I actually did see games, and it was
I had that recently.
was the telling that was the telling for me. You walk in there and it was literally
hardly any Xbox stuff. A lot of them have got rid of most of the Xbox stuff. They've got PlayStation.
It's not just it's literally has become.
Well, you know who owns it, don't you? The guy who owns
it's become more pop Funko and
I think he owns
stuff
it,
like that
doesn't he?
these days.
The guy that owns Sports Direct, what's his name? That's who owns Game. That's why it's gone downhill.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, Game has always had a bigger problem. And I am a Game member sort of thing. I never kind of paid for it, but I was a Game member. The thing about Game was that the price of Game was always more expensive elsewhere.
Yeah.
So if you bought it off Amazon, say it's like, I don't know, $70, in Game it'd be $75.
Yeah.
And if they did a deal and say, we'll give you for $75, it was because you'd had to pay a subscription service to get that $5 off. But you're probably paying that subscription service they had was like, 80 quid a year.
Yeah, I know.
So it wasn't really a very good deal. And they literally, they killed themselves. Go on.
So remember, I was just going to say, Game have been treading water since the late 90s, right? I remember a time, a day one ship. This is not when digital was about. This is when physical was about. Day one ship in the UK, up to 60% of a day one release would have to go through Game. They would get such massive discounts for, in terms of off of RRP, less VAT, right? In terms of they'd get 40 to 45%. Get publishers basically get all their trousers down around them, right? And so basically, what the publishers had to do was limit how much independents and how much distributors got in terms of margin between, which would be less actually to split between. They would get like 40%, they'd make 5 to 10, and the retailer would get 25 to 30 max. And all the while Game was getting much higher discount than those two sort of stepping stones combined in order to get the product to retail. On top of that, they were buying 50 to 60% of the day one content, and retail publishers had nowhere to go. But as you just mentioned, with the rise of Amazon and other retailers, with Tesco's coming in and working on smaller margins, but as they gradually managed to erode Game's day one business, obviously, secondhand game started to become a big thing. They didn't need Game to shift as much hardware as they predominantly used to, because Dixon's and Currys and all these others were doing it. Game just found themselves, the tables turned basically, and publishers said, look, we don't need you as much as we used to. Your terms are going to be eroded, because they'd want 90 to 100 days term, 120. I remember really well, they wanted 120 days terms and salary return, and they said, don't need to do it no more. And over the last 15, 20 years, at this point in time was inevitable.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember it was the only place to go besides Argos. And for those who are in the American, Argos is effectively, how would you describe Argos, VJ? It's
where I bought my Nintendo Switch.
But what would you classify it as? What would you classify it as, like a Target over in America?
It's a catalog store where you can pick up, at the storefront basically. So a bit like Best Buy, Target, but basically rather than having online shopping, you'd actually be able to pick up a catalog and take it home, mark up what you wanted, and then go and pick it up in store the next day.
Exactly. And it still exists in the UK.
But obviously they do a lot more stuff.
So it was Argos was one, and then the other one was Game. And I remember very much a case of sitting outside Game at midnight with a queue of about 60 other people waiting for the latest release. And that was, as you said, it was the only place you could get it. You could only get it at those two spots, either Argos, and Argos was also a nightmare to get through, or Game. And Game was predominantly the best place, because at the time they had good deals, and so therefore you were like, fine. Also, you could trade in, so that kind of helped things. But as time kind of progressed, now, as you said, we have Tesco's. Tesco's actually does a pretty good, depending on the size of Tesco's. Tesco's actually do a pretty good physical releases now. They've got physical copies. Amazon is probably still the best place for physical releases in terms of price, even, I suspect. And Argos is still pretty good actually as well.
Because basically, you remember those days, right? Digital wasn't as big, right? And basically, if Nintendo made a game, Sony made a game, to restock it was 4 weeks, and I think Nintendo was 2 months, right? Because it was cartridge and it was shipping from Japan. So basically, what you got a situation is that Sony or Nintendo would earmark, okay, we're going to ship 50,000 units into the UK. The Game would say, okay, we'll take 20. Let's just say 25,000. We're not only buying it cheaper, we're selling it more expensive than everyone else, because we can. And then they would go to the publisher, and I've seen this 1,000 times. They would go to the publisher and say, hey, listen, you know what? Our sales are a little bit up, so we want an extra 5K. Who suffers? Everybody else gets allocated. And Game get what they want. And that's just exactly how it was, because they had 120-day terms. Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, or whichever publisher had a slew of releases. They needed Game support and said, listen, you give us this, we'll take this, this, and this to help make sure that you hit your financial year. They had so much power removal. It was unbelievable. It was just basically...
Yeah, it was
crazy.
One thing I remember about the Game was also it was an event in itself. The shops back then were like mini theaters. They had so much PR, so much You know, they had posters, they had cardboard cutouts. It was like you're walking into like a little mini theater at the time of all gaming related memorabilia. So you not only could you sometimes get like free poster with it. You're like, oh, fantastic, my favorite game, I've got a free poster. Or you get something, you know, it was eventful.
A little value
It
add
wasn't,
token. Right?
yeah, and it made the experience so much more of an experience. And then throughout time, it just generally got worse and worse, and things got removed, taken away from it. You know, the amount of games was pared back. You know, this fluff and tack that's plushies and Funko Pops started basically oversizing. And as I said, literally, I remember going into the last game, and it was more tat than it was games. And in fact, I don't think I've been back to game for about 2 years now because it was just more tat than games. In fact, if anything, I would say now, if you're looking for secondhand games, sex is probably the best place for it now.
I was going to say, are
I
you
really
talking about
wish you
your-
wouldn't call it that, because it sounds like you're saying something else.
No, I was just
But
going
it
to
is,
say, are you
isn't it?
talking
It's
about-
sex. It's CEX.
I was going to say, are you talking about your trips to game stores in London or Amsterdam?
No, but it's we've got effectively a second-hand store over here that's called CEX.
There
Now
you
I
go,
know it's
just
called
say
sex because Brian Blessed shouts it out to me on the TV and the advert going sex. So
Oh,
I
my
just know
goodness.
it's that one.
Brian
It's
Blessed,
that one, it's called.
the greatest, as far as I remember, the greatest voice not to grace a video game.
No, I think he has. He has done a video
I can't
game.
remember. I know a few people that
He's
have
done
directed
one.
games.
I'm trying to think of what. Didn't he do? Wasn't it a Flash video game? Not Flash. What's it called? Oh my God.
Brian Blessed.
No, it was the Flash, wasn't it? It's not the Flash. Well, it's not Flash. It's oh God. Was it
I
Flash?
don't know which game it was, but it's so funny removal because I was just thinking about Brian Blessed yesterday because we nearly cast him in a game I was working a long time ago. Nearly cast him, but
Yeah, even Indy says I
he's
think
such a
Blessed has
bugger.
done games. I'm sure he has.
I was
Yeah.
being warned that he's such. If you don't have an experienced voice director, he runs riot over you. He just does it
does.
to take the piss. So yeah.
So-
Anyway, it's an old story, but
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think he has just it. But yeah, he's brilliant. I love his voice. It's just superb. His just iconic voice. You'll just know it anywhere. It's just
funny. I was thinking about it yesterday. It's so funny you mention it today. It's incredible.
Been a good.
he's on everybody's mind.
We're going to wrap it up now. It's been a good show. Yeah,
We're just getting warmed up.
I know.
I know.
Yeah.
Mac is
Blessed.
just getting warmed up.
We're
for
not
sure,
doing a
'cause he just
4-hour show. We're not.
No, not today.
No.
Not even for Red Nose Day.
No, he's fine. But yeah, thanks for coming on Back from the Dead. It was good to have you on, and we will get you on in the future. We will, and Removal will make sure of that. I'll remember.
It's true.
Yeah, it's great getting in touch with you guys again.
It was superb to have you, my sir.
Yeah, some fantastic points of view there back, and hopefully we have you back on again soon because I actually really enjoyed. We do have quite a few guests on here, but I think you're one of the better ones, shall we say? And I don't dish
Yeah,
that
it's
compliment very easily.
just kind of difficult with my schedule, how my days rotate. So yeah, most podcasts I'm on, if it's earlier and on a weekday, I have to schedule it about a month in advance.
Cool.
It just worked out when Subs asked me that I was on vacation 2 weeks later, so it's like, hey, that makes it easy.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Back from the Dead 1 on all social media, Back from Dead 1 on Xbox and PSN. And one of the exciting things I actually just got recently was I became an affiliate with Coffee Brand Coffee. So they sell different products from really premium coffee that they roast themselves right after you order it, and then they ship it out to you. So it's fresh made to order, along with different snacks like peanuts and candy cashews and yogurt covered pretzels or chocolate covered pretzels. They got a lot of different stuff on there, and you can use code Back from the Dead at checkout for 10% off. So
Nice.
Like I said, I'm an affiliate with them, so I will get some cash back if you buy anything with my code. So if you want to support my content that way, you can. You can also, just come out to the live streams. I usually, because I stream to YouTube, Twitch, and Rumble all at the same time, they're kind of just inconsistent at this point because that's just the way my schedule's going. But yeah, I play a lot of Destiny on there. Destiny's kind of at a down point, so I've been bouncing around to different bullet hells. Like when I was just playing earlier today, I actually got an update. Yet another zombie survivors. They added a fire character in that one, and then also checking out Tiny Rogues, Death Must Die, and the other one, Halls of Torment is so a handful of those games I've been playing recently. Just kind of trying to mix it up between large open world or lure shooters that I usually play and some games that I can just kind of be a little more chill with and interact. So yeah, thanks again for having me on. It's always great talking with you guys.
Except for me.
Much appreciated.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on. Good to have you on. It is.
Sorry you're having to put up with the dry humor here, Back. I hope you're familiar with it. It's quite British.
I have the same kind of humor. Most people don't understand.
I think all of us
I actually appreciate it.
Apart from me, yeah. And Real Sanity, thanks for coming back on.
Much appreciated. Again, thank you all for having me on and letting me blather and talk about things and never stop until I get kicked off. It is greatly appreciated. For those who wish to keep in contact with me or just listen to me rant and rave in general, you can find me on Minds, YouTube, Xbox, Rumble, and Odyssey under the name Removal Sanity.
Thanks for coming on, and thanks VJ for coming on.
Thanks Stubz for having me on your show. I know I'm not always with it, but I do appreciate being invited on.
You are with it.
It's just,
more than
it's
we
just
are,
nice
that's for sure.
I know. I mean, I only have bits and pieces today because I'm not as well versed as Removable about gaming and stuff. But when I get a chance, I like to talk about video games and.
You're telling porcupines now, VJ.
No, it's not that. I'm just. I know about old video games and stuff like that, but the amount of games that you play, indie plays, loot plays, the amount of hours people put into games like Destiny, Back, and obviously BMG, I'm never going to get close. I do like to play games and finish them and stuff like that. And
but you put in huge amounts of time in other games that we have no chance of ever getting through.
It's just having some human connection. If I'm really honest, being on the shows, I don't really speak to many people. You can play games and enjoy them, but then to share that experience in a respectful way is always really, really good. And I wish Rocksteady the best of luck. So I remember when Jez San of Argonaut, when that studio went down, then it split into Rocksteady and Ninja Theory. I suppose you guys know all that story, but and the rest of it, and it was Jane Kavanagh, right, head of Argonaut, not Argonaut, sorry, of IDOS at the time, right, and she was the one that gave Sefton Hill the opportunity, right, to make a game. I forgot what it was called. It was a sequel to one of IDOS's, Urban Chaos. I think it was a sequel to, perhaps.
Oh God, that brings me back to memories.
And then she said, look, we've got a superhero game that we want you to make, and they went away and they worked on Batman and the first few iterations, because let's be honest, even AAA games in the conceptual stage, they're made in 2D or even in white boxes. They start out as indie games, because there's such a small team working on them, and then they become, big budget games. But they all start in the same sort of manner,
Start
in a
small.
corner with a few guys, So don't forget that, So
Ooh.
I've seen it all to a degree, but obviously methodologies have changed a lot in the present day, especially with the software that's available these days. It's bloody incredible. Some of the stuff that I've been watching just out of curiosity to see how things have moved on. It's phenomenal, really. And as I say, not every game is perfect, but we don't live in a perfect universe, and sometimes you've got to do the best with what you've got. So I do wish Rocksteady the best of luck with their next game, even though we've tried to rip their game apart politely as possible. But hopefully they can take something constructive away from that if they ever listen to this podcast, which I think they should. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on, VJ. It's always good to have you on.
Basically, don't make your outro a lot shorter next time round. I will do.
But yeah, thanks everyone for joining in chat. Luke Steele, Indie Gamers, too many names to mention. But yeah, thanks everyone, and I'll see you next week.